Hello, my name's Lex Croucher. I am the author of Reputation and I have some upcoming books, Infamous and Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. And I am here today with New York Times bestselling author of Red, White and Royal Blue and One Last Stop, Casey McQuiston, to talk about their new book, I Kissed Shara Wheeler. Casey, is Casey going to appear? We don't know.
Yes, I am.
Oh my God, you did.
I've added an earring since the last time you saw me. And
that was like 3
ran
seconds
to the
ago.
other room. Yeah.
How did you do that?
It's a little envelope with a love letter coming out of it, and it felt very thematic.
It's beautiful.
So,
all right, I'm holding up my copy too. Actually, I should because it looks really sad and dogged, and it's got like
no, that's what books are supposed to look like.
Oh no, I agree. I'm very much in the like crack the spine, read it in the bath, drop it in the bath, dry it on the radiator. Like that's my vibe.
All my favorite books have food stains on them.
Yes, I feel like it's a compliment. Like that's how you know it's good.
I couldn't put it down. I was eating a pizza and I couldn't put it down.
Exactly. I think the sad thing about this is I only put 3 Post-its in, and it's not because
I actually hated it.
You know, I hated the book. So number one, I hated this. Why have you done this to me? So I put 3 Post-its in, and then I got distracted and just read through to the end and forgot to put any more Post-its in. And one of the Post-its just says lol with an arrow to the words Kylo Ren. So I don't
see, those are my favorite. Like when I send a manuscript to a friend and they mark it up with just like a bunch of like just like screaming or my God, that's the best feedback.
Yeah, because a lot of the time I do want some constructive criticism a little bit, but yeah, I really just want someone to be like, you're a genius, this was hilarious, keep doing what you're doing.
Is that so much to ask?
Apparently. I think like for the first time I had like an editor comment on a manuscript that was just saying something like dying, and I was like, I made you die.
So is that something Vicky did? That sounds like something Vicky would do.
Not yet. Vicky has not. So Casey and I now share an editor who is also watching. Hi Vicky.
Hi Vicky.
And we have not yet worked together on an edit, but yeah, I just the first time that somebody says like I'm screaming, I say the first time. If you write fan fiction, you tend to get a lot of that nice affirmation early on. So
we love a real-time affirmation. It's a very important part of the creative process.
Yes, 100%. So
we should probably talk about the book.
Yeah, I was actually going to be like, okay, so I wanted to talk about Taco Bell, and then I was like,
let's talk about that first.
Okay, so first of all, very important, I ordered Taco Bell before this. It was my first ever Taco Bell. The way I'm saying it is weird. Taco Bell. And
sure.
I just wanted to ask you what I should have ordered, because what I ordered was some tacos. But I had to take out the cheese and the sour cream because I'm vegan, so it was like a limp sort of thing, and when I opened the paper it just kind of flopped out. It was a soft one, and then I put some sauce on it and ate it, and it was just like I was like in a dressing gown, hunched over, eating.
Well, that's exactly how you're supposed to eat Taco Bell, first of all. Okay, for context, if people don't know why we're talking about Taco Bell is a very important part of the book. One of the clues that Shara leaves is left at a Taco Bell, and then they're just like, it's just a recurring thing in the book. For me,
thank God you brought it back to the book.
Yes. Well, like if you're from an American suburb, which I'm sure many people watching this are not, a big part of life at an American suburb is just whatever is the closest fast food restaurant to your school. That's where everyone's going to hang out before and after school. And at my school, it was a Taco Bell. And so I threw that detail into the book. But to answer your question, I think it's hard to answer your question because many of the things that I would suggest ordering are not vegan.
If I weren't vegan, if I were just a normal guy, guy, what would I get?
So one thing I would recommend, this is like, I said it the same way that I do when I recommend like craft.
It's an advertorial that you're doing right now for Taco Bell.
When are they going to sponsor me? Because I'm doing work for them right now. But so the beefy 5-layer burrito, it's a burrito and it is filled with beef, nacho cheese, refried beans, regular, they're like 3 cheese, like shredded cheese blends, and sour cream. It's like all wrapped up in a big burrito, and it's delicious. And I believe the best three components of any Taco Bell dish are the ground beef, the refried beans, and the nacho cheese, and so that combines them all into one.
Right. That's
So
where I went wrong.
I would say that would be a good place to start as like sort of a like like a sampler platter of what Taco Bell has to offer.
And it has
But
so
anyway.
much to offer. Anyway.
This is already my favorite talk.
Okay, great. So now for the serious hard-hitting questions, not about tacos. So you, first of all, how are you? That's the hard-hitting question.
I got home from tour last night, and I am feeling like it's like an bit of an emotional hangover because it was just like such intense, like euphoric, like fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's also like 6 cities in 7 days. So I have like I have like all these random scrapes on my legs that's from like getting in and out of cars and planes and moving my suitcase. And I'm like, how did this happen? So like my body is tired, but emotionally I am just like, whoa, that was incredible. Everyone's been so kind. And this is also my first time having a book kind of simultaneously released in the UK, which is super, super fun. And I am very excited this is, I think, my first time really talking specifically and exclusively to UK readers.
That's what I was going to ask you. Question number one.
Yeah.
Is this the first time?
I'm going to be honest. I've always been a little scared too, because the feedback I've gotten on Red, White, and Royal Blue has ranged the full gamut from I thought the author was British to this author has never met a British person in their life. And so it's kind of scary, like going into a room full of Brits and not knowing, like, are they going to make fun of me? Are they going to roast me for my
rotten vegetables?
Tomato. Like, you never know. But so far, everyone's been lovely. Everyone at Macmillan UK has been lovely. You've been lovely.
I try.
And it's lovely to be here with the British folks and the other folks who are not British but still attend the events.
Yes. Well, no, because I was going to say, I don't know if I'm remembering this wrong, but I'm so sure that you are a Georgia Nicholson reader.
Yes.
Yes, because I always think that you can tell, like you can, especially in people's writing styles, you can literally tell whether or not somebody like grew up reading. Just for clarity for people watching, Georgia Nicholson, a series of books like by Louise Renison that actually I reread recently, and they're quite cruel. Sometimes they're a little mean, but they are also very, very, they're of their time. And as a teenager, like they were so funny, like they were just the absolute height of comedy to me, and I feel like my entire personality just came from reading those books. So when I read Red, White, and Royal Blue, I was like, well, yeah, this is, I can see the influences. This is a Georgia Nicholson influenced book.
I was a huge Georgia Nicholson fan. I feel like that was one of the main reasons why as a tween I really desperately wished I had been born British, which is embarrassing. But I very much like, she was just so funny, and like her very specific like usage of like, it wasn't even British slang, it was like Georgia slang, it was like her own slang.
So specific.
And yes, I've also recently reread them and was like, ooh, some of this is not aging well. But the humor, while it was cruel, was also so specific and so voicey that I think what I've kept from it, and what I think shows up in Shara, which, Chloe can also be really mean sometimes. And so I think that tracks, is just the really intense specificity of like having like code words with your friends. And that is like it's so true to what it's like to be a teenager. Like in this book, Chloe and her best friend Georgia, I wonder where I got that name from.
I was literally it's written on my notes. I was like, did you get a little kick out of writing that someone was called Georgia in this book?
Well, in the first draft, she was named Gabby. And it just like wasn't suiting her, but I couldn't, it was just like a placeholder name, how sometimes you have those. And I came back through and I was like, well, I want to keep a G name, and where should I? And then I had the idea of naming her after one of my favorite like formative YA series.
Perfect.
And so, but there's like a scene where Chloe and Georgia have a code word between the two of them for like, do you need to be rescued? And it's Isengard, which is, it's a reference within a reference. It's because it's that's a reference to, obviously they're taking the hobbits to Isengard, and like when they have to go and rescue the hobbits from Isengard. And so the like usage of like code words, I think, is something that's so true to being a teenager. And I do think that's something I learned from Louise Redison.
Yes, 100%. And just the inside jokes and the like the ways that you find to fill the time and stuff,
Yes.
that kind of like texture of your teen life.
Well, and that those books so were exactly what you said. Like so much of it was just like about boredom. Yes, and like, and being 100%. In a town where nothing happened and your family's embarrassing and like your pets are weird. And I feel like that really informs this book in so many ways. So shout out to Louise Redison. May she rest in peace, and may her memory forever be a blessing to us.
I feel like once again you're the one who's had to bring it. You've had to bring it back to the book, and I'm supposed to be hosting this event.
No, this is just because I've gotten to the point of interviews where I'm like, I've found a way to turn anything into like, well, actually, if you pre-order my book, then you will know.
You'll find out.
So okay, my brain's just broken now, so it's not you.
No, it's good. You're on perfect form. Okay, all right. I've got questions. All right. Can you talk us through the Shara journey? So I saw Vicky your editor talking about how this idea was first pitched in 2018. So what's the journey been from there to now?
Yeah. So back in 2018, I had sold Red, White, and Royal Blue, and it was coming out in like 6 months. So this was like fall of 2018. I very vividly remember it was like right around Halloween. And Vicky sort of emailed me and was like, hey, like, it's time to start talking about like, what's your next book going to be? We'd love to hear some pitches. And I was like, ooh, I would love to know what that's going to be too. I mean, at the time, I very much did have One Last Stop like on deck. Like I had already started working on it. I had been like kind of outlining and sketching it out for months at the time. But they wanted 4 pitches. And so,
oh, wow.
Yes. And so I put together 4 pitches, and they wanted some YA and some like new adult. Because we had always talked from the moment that I sold Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is a very young adult, like not young adult, but like a young adult book, yes. You know, like lower end of adult. We'd always talked about it being such a genre straddler and wanting to kind of lean into that and do some like crossover stuff where I would do some adult and some YA, and it would be a thing where if you are an older teenager or college age or like aging out of YA and into romance, then like my whole body of work would be something that could work for you, you know, and also just about like showing range and doing different stuff. And so I pitched 2 adult ideas and 2 YA ideas. And one of the adult ideas was One Last Stop, and one of the YA ideas was Shara Wheeler, which was a basic premise I had come up with that was kind of Frankenstein together from having just stayed up all night reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for the first time and crying my eyes out and being like, how do I write something this good ever in my life? And then also I had this like kind of leftover idea from like my college screenwriting class about like a girl who runs away to rob banks, and like her brother and best friend and fiance have to go chase after her on the railroad. It was like obviously a period piece. And so I had this idea of like, I want to do something that's really fun, frothy, tropey, silly, bright, colorful, campy YA rom-com. But I want to have it have elements of these other things going on. And then the title, I Kissed Shara Wheeler, came to my brain. And I kind of reverse engineered this idea of like a multiple suitor rom-com that would involve clues and, you know, archival materials and unraveling a mystery of like, who is this girl? And it would also sort of subvert and explore some of the like tropes of like the mid 2000s YA that I grew up with. That was very, you know, paper towns looking for Alaska, you know, manic pixie dream girl type of stuff. So I pitched that to Vicky in 2018, and she was into it. And then I wrote One Last Stop. I wrote that whole book and I launched it, and like it was 2020. It wasn't until like spring of 2020 that I was actually able to start working on Shara. And
Fun
that
time
was,
to write a book.
oh my
Spring
God,
of
it was so
2020.
fun. It was like March. It was like, it was early. It was like March 15th, 2020. And I was like, okay, so I just moved to New York and we're going into lockdown, and it's like, that's interesting. I'm really excited though, because I have a week to just stay home and work on my book. And I can really get started on this and like start really strong. And then like cut to a month later, and I'm like, not only do I not remember how to write in a book anymore because I'm too busy freaking out, but I like don't even remember like what a book is. I don't remember how I ever wrote one to begin with, because my brain is 24/7 occupied with, is the world ending? What's happening?
Yeah.
So, but I squeezed out a first draft in like 4 or 5 months, and it was awful. It was so, Vicky is a saint for being like, this is, and this just needs some shaping,
It's just raw. It's just raw. It just needs to be cooked.
Yeah. And it took about another 6 months to get it fixed and get it to where I wanted it to be. And now here she is. I finished. I didn't feel like she was really finished until like very final pass. But I'm very, very happy with where she is now, and she's beautiful, and she's available in so many different colors. She's also available in purple.
Oh my God, I love the purple. I love this one too. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we have to shout out to the blue.
Yeah, the blue is beautiful. I've just remembered something that I was supposed to do at the very beginning of this, which is to tell people that you can use the Q&A function to ask Casey questions. So if you have burning questions, somewhere in the realm of Zoom, there is a Q&A box, and you can put questions in there, and maybe, just maybe, Casey will answer them if you're very lucky.
I would love to answer some questions. And if you want to just use it to ask me how I think British slang functions, and then explain to me how it actually functions, that also would be fine.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, I've got loads of really, really great questions here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Obviously. Oh yeah, can you pitch us the book? Sorry, I haven't even asked. Just
yeah, no. Pitch. I mean, okay, so I would say my elevator pitch I usually use for this is, it is a queer rom-com about a prom queen who disappears on prom night after leaving behind 3 of her classmates with kisses and personalized notes, containing clues toward where she went and why. And the 3 of those 3 classmates are Smith, her superstar quarterback boyfriend, Rory, who is the sort of angsty, poetic boy next door who plays guitar and always has had a crush on her, and Chloe, who is her absolute nightmare academic rival. And so the 3 of them, who have presumably nothing in common, spend the rest of the book forced to work together to figure out where Shara went and why. And along the way, they uncover all of these secrets and lies and revelations about her and themselves and their small town that they live in, because they live in a small town in central Alabama, which for the uninitiated to American geography is in what we call the Bible Belt, which is just Southern religious conservative country. And that is the pitch. It's fun.
That was
it's
a
good time.
Pitch.
Yeah, it sounds a little more like thriller when I pitch it like that, but I promise it is a rom-com.
And everybody gets murdered. The end.
Yes, that is actually how
that's
it is.
I'm afraid that's what happens. I was going to ask you, so I feel like your jump from not young adult but young for adult to YA, it doesn't feel like a huge jump to me, and I think that's also just because I feel like the way that we write for teenagers and the way you write for adults, like there isn't like a huge, doesn't have to be a huge difference. Like I think maybe there are some small differences, but I was going to ask if you had like teen consultants, like a youth council, to tell you what was cool and how the kids are talking, or do you just know that in your head? Are you just down with the kids?
I certainly didn't know it. I have a couple of friends. One of my friends has like a 13-year-old, and that was definitely a helpful source of information. But I feel like the biggest source of information that I had was that when I started outlining this book was when I downloaded TikTok.
Yeah.
And I kind of quickly trained my algorithm to show me just like what are the queer teens up to these days, and like how do they post, what do they talk about, how do they present themselves, and what do they think is cool, which, you know, you can only glean so much from social media. But what I think was left the biggest impression on me was just like how queer teens these days are so much more open about being queer than I was at their age back in, like, I graduated high school in 2009. And for me, like, I would see like these like 16-year-old girls on TikTok being and like, I'm a lesbian, and I'm like, no one, I definitely didn't, not only did I not know anybody who knew they were a lesbian in high school, but I certainly didn't know anybody who would have admitted openly that they were a lesbian. And the fact that, like, I know this is not universal in like every high school in America, but that there are places in America where like teens are just like openly queer and it's not a big, huge deal, was mind-blowing to me. And so that kind of taught me, like, okay, some of the, like I know in this environment, it would make sense for, like, in the environment of Willow Grove at the school in the book, it would make sense for the queer kids to be openly queer amongst themselves, but not like in the greater student body. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even tell any of my own close friends in high school that I was queer, because like that was not a thing that happened. But now I feel like it's like there's a place for that in high schools. And so I learned a lot about, I guess my youth consultants were my TikTok algorithm.
Very good. And the TikTok algorithm is like scarily good. Like it finds you the stuff.
Yeah, it's getting like way too accurate. Like it definitely knows like my sun, moon, and rising signs at this point. And it's always like, do you want, I think it knows my exact pant size and also like the color palettes I prefer.
That's
so terrifying. I don't know. It's I was like, I know you're selling me stuff, but however, I do want to buy it.
This is the problem. I've never seen an algorithm get it so right, in that like it just gives me everything I want, and I'm like, this is how they're supposed to work, but this is why they're so dangerous.
Yeah, I've trained mine to show me like cute little Australian ladies making pottery, which is wonderful. It's delightful.
Yeah. Mine's mostly people in armor, like throwing swords around. I don't know.
There should be like a thing that's like, what does your TikTok FYP say about you? Like, I feel like that is like very like me versus you. It's like mine is like twee little pottery videos, and yours is like
mine is
jousting.
Yeah, mine is jousting. Mine is like lady nights at the joust and
incredible.
The new pirate show on HBO. Like that's literally it.
Nice.
I was going to ask you actually about when you were talking about kind of the experience of like being like queer and being kind of more openly out in school and stuff. Like, did any of writing this, because reading this, and also I think kind of a couple of TV shows that I've watched recently, things like Heartstopper, there's kind of a weird, how am I going to phrase this? I feel like almost in getting to kind of live in this world of like teens actually kind of being out to each other and actually being able to have that kind of community as teenagers, was there any kind of sense of like a little bit of a kind of do-over, like a wish fulfillment, like a redo? Because I feel like that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's a reason why every queer person like comes out and then like acts like a teenager for a couple of years. Like we do have this like delayed adolescence where it's like like you figure yourself out and it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make a lot of choices that are questionable for a while. And I think that to be like an adult and be like kind of more settled into yourself and your identity, and then get to revisit the feeling of adolescence, you know, like those feelings that were actually good about growing up, which was the infinite possibility of it, and like, but at the same time, the simplicity of it, you know, where it's like, it was enough to just like go to a party that was a nice time and like have a cute moment where you like held hands with your crush. And that was like the biggest thing that happened to you that year, you know? There's something so beautiful and huge about the simplicity of that. and to get to revisit that as a queer adult and put yourself into that situation and have that experience without this like weird hovering feeling of like, but also I'm not supposed to be here and something feels weird and something doesn't fit. To just be there in that moment is really, really like, I feel like therapeutic and like part of the adult queer healing process. And I think also there are a lot of kids who, for them in their own like small town or community, it's still not really like they can be open. And so for them, I think even this escapism is important because it's like a way for them to have some of those moments of pure adolescent joy that is not, you know, weirdly shaded by these feelings of like anxiety and fear about not fitting in, you know?
Yeah, so, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely, I say with a heavy sigh.
Isn't that just like what having a conversation about queer adolescence is? It's just, yeah, definitely.
Yep. There it is. Okay, so I was going to ask you about writing unlikable characters, unlikable women, unlikable girls. So I do that too. I do that.
I love that.
I think the worst reviews I ever get are people just being like, what is wrong with this protagonist? Like, why she's just like an awful person. Why would she make any of these choices? And obviously your characters aren't terrible, but I think, you know, I think there's a lot to love about them. But is there some kind of fun that you had with writing slightly like maybe unlikable
so much
girls?
So much. I mean, Chloe, yes, she is. I mean, it is very plainly stated in the book that Chloe is like the other students, when she's not around her, like refer to her as the mistress of pain. Like she is just like, everyone is afraid of her because she is deeply unpleasant on purpose to everyone she meets. But I love that about her because I feel like in a lot of ways, Chloe has the courage that a lot of us wish that we had in environments that were not kind to us, where she's like, I mean, on the one hand, it's a flaw because she rejects everybody before they get a chance to reject her. And so she becomes, you know, in an attempt at self-defense, she does become a bit judgmental and harsh, and she can be very cruel and dismissive sometimes. But it's all developed. I think so much of this book is about the self that you have to develop to survive in a place that doesn't really want you there. Which is like what Chloe is doing and what Shara is doing, and they've just come at it from very different angles. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we have so many unlikable male protagonists in YA. All of the classic, like look at like any of like the really popular like YA novels with male protagonists of the last like 20 years, and like most of them are unbearable and like maybe like they have some like interesting arcs going on, but they are just not like they don't have good personalities. I'm sorry.
No.
And I'm like, why does a female character as a lead have to have a good personality? Like, does it prevent us from being able to relate to her or empathize with her or see her as a person? And I think
why
it's also
as a person have to have a good personality? I don't. So
and I think it's also really important to model for teenage girls that they don't have to be nice, because especially where I'm from in the South and like in conservative Southern environments, there's this huge emphasis on like keeping sweet and always being nice. And as a girl, you're never supposed to complain or be negative or push back, or you're supposed to be submissive and joyful. And, you know, that is like such a vulnerable position for a young girl to be in, and it puts her in a position to be taken advantage of and to be hurt. And I think it's okay to say to young women, like, hey, it's okay if you behave in a way that makes people call you a bitch, you know, like that's okay. Like that, if that is what you need to be, or that's just who you are, you know. I think one of Chloe's moms describes her as like a snarling Pomeranian from hell with eyes like fire or something like that. That's okay. Like, it's so that you don't have to be nice, you just have to be kind. And those two things are very different things. And, you know, there's a part of the book where Chloe is thinking about Shara, and she's like, Shara is not nice, but she's so many more important things than nice. And I think that's where it is. It's like, really, I think what an unlikable female protagonist is just someone who's not nice a lot of the time. And I don't think that she should have to be, quite frankly.
No, I agree. I'm with you.
Yeah, and it's just fun to write.
Yeah, no, it is fun. I just, when people are like, why isn't this person just really nice? I'm like, what book is that? I niced my way down the corridor nicely and I said, hi, everybody. Like, where's the tension? What's even going on? What kind of jokes are you gonna have? Just none.
Yeah.
I sensed a lot of I sensed with my senses a lot of teen movie / rom-com references. I feel like there was a 10 Things I Hate About You moment that just stuck out to me. And there was there's a Mean Girls. There was maybe even a little Heathers. I don't know if it was Heathers or if I was just projecting Heathers onto it. But did you rewatch a lot of kind of teen comedy stuff, or is it just so embedded in your brain?
Yeah, so many. I mean, I feel like it's both. Like, they were very embedded in my brain, but I also went back and revisited a lot of my favorites. There's a period of pre-drafting that I always do with a new project that this is going to sound very silly and pretentious, but I feel like you need to develop the environment and the correct mental landscape and language for a book before you're ready to sit down and start drafting it. So for me, for Shara, I felt like before I started drafting it, I needed to really connect with my teen self and what my teen self liked in stories and what good teen stories feel like when you are at the level to really get in there with it. Because really, ultimately, I'm writing this book, obviously for teen readers. And so I went and revisited a lot of my own greatest hits of my adolescence. So obviously 10 Things I Hate About You. Rewatched some of the OC, some of Gilmore Girls. I rewatched Saved. I rewatched Clueless. Definitely Heathers. What else? Oh, there were so many. I went back and listened to a lot of my favorite music from that era, especially the songs that were on the soundtrack of the OC were all very iconic early indie 2000s music. And obviously the Killers album Hot Fuss, which came out in I think 2003, which became the epigraph of the book. Started out with a kiss. I mean, I wanted to develop, I just wanted to connect with all of those things that I loved as a teenager, and then build out from there this very organically homegrown teen dream rom-com sparkle feeling, so very much that. It's if you felt like you in sensed a reference to something, you probably did.
She kissed me where? On the mouth? Geographically. that to me was such a 10 Things I Hate About You moment, because there's that moment where Patrick
my god, that's one of my favorite. Yeah, that's one of my favorite one of my favorite jokes of the book. It's very early.
It's great. I loved it. Also, I didn't know if I couldn't tell if cow tipping was such a thing in American culture, because that to me almost felt like a Heather's reference. And I was like, but maybe in America they just tip cows all the time.
No, and that was a reference to, that's a reference to, I'm from the South and this is what people do on the weekends, is
so
the two things that things that the jock boys were most likely to be doing on the weekends would be cow tipping, mudding, which is where you just take your big jacked up truck out to a muddy field or something and just cut donuts and just everything is covered in mud, and then you show up on school on Monday with your truck covered in mud and it's a flex for some reason. Or they will go ride what we call four-wheelers, which you might know as an ATV, which is the little four-wheeled thing, and then probably get in a horrible accident. So
that's what happens here too, the horrible accidents for sure. Speaking of fun teen rom-coms, there's a bit about Jane Austen's Emma, which I found really interesting, which was about let's see if my memory serves me. They were kind of talking about how Emma Woodhouse is annoying and manipulative, but then the argument was she's annoying, she's manipulative, she doesn't make up for her faults by the end. And then Georgia is kind of arguing in favor, and the point of her is to kind of be interesting.
Yes.
And I was like, I think this is
it's perhaps a meta commentary.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, is that even a question?
Yeah,
the question is,
I mean, I threw that in there because I kind of I was trying to like anticipate. I mean, like, you try not to be like a self-conscious writer, but then like you also kind of can anticipate what might be like the sticky parts for some readers. And I could anticipate that there would be some readers that were like, well, I don't feel like Chloe or Shara, after making all these poor choices throughout the book, I don't feel like they fully and completely atoned by the end. And I feel like for that reason that the story isn't complete, or that they are just like completely unlikable, dismissible characters. And I think, like, similarly to Emma, like, I don't think that necessarily the point of a character in a story from beginning to end is to complete their moral arc as much as it is to be interesting and have a compelling arc. And I think like Chloe and Shara do see the mistakes that they make, and they take the steps in the right direction to begin to make them right. But there's just like that's not where the book ends. Like, the book ends with them on the way to making things right and growing and learning. But like, they're also 18, and it's like not realistic for them to be like, ah, yes, I have seen every error of my ways, and now I will behave maturely and repair all of my damage and never make a mistake again. You know, that is certainly not how I was when I was 18. In fact, I was like, okay, so this didn't work for me. I'm going to go and make worse choices at 19. You know, and then maybe by like 25, I'll figure out what's going on. You know,
you're like, that didn't work, so I'll just go even further and see if that works.
Yeah,
we just don't know.
Yes, and so I think like it was very intentional, like meta commentary that I put in there, and I loved the irony of Chloe being like, well, that character is annoying, and Chloe is like kind of living that arc. Like, Chloe and Shara are both kind of living that arc throughout the book of like making a lot of choices that are bad and like hurting people's feelings, and like being so like tunnel focused on this one thing that matters a lot to them, that there's like this collateral damage of people around them that they're hurting without realizing it. And then at the end kind of being like, oh, I need to like go bring someone a basket of geese or whatever, and like and atone.
When
and
you get bit by a snake, you have to suck the poison out in Mean Girls, you know?
Yes. And so no, I put that in very intentionally to be like, you know, let's have some thoughts about, you know, narrative arcs here.
I love that.
Love to have thoughts.
A thought about it. I love to have thoughts. No, I would love to be a part of a thought someday. So there's a lot of significant kisses in this book, and I wanted to ask you, not for the kind of, you know, the joy of the audience hearing the answer to the question, but just as somebody who writes books, I wanted to know how you go about writing a kissing scene.
Oh yeah. You know, it's like always like got to be this it's very important to have a balance between the physical description and like the internal feelings of like what the character is going through. I think the most important thing you need for a kiss, first of all, is the place in which the kiss is taking place, and then like the blocking of it, you know, like you need to have a very like, I don't know, I'm like the way I write, like I picture all the scenes very like cinematically in my head, and it's very important to me to be able to imagine like this person standing here and this person standing here, and like this is this and this, like this is where they're touching, and like how is the light falling on them, like what is like, does it feel like does the room, like does the air in the room feel like heavy or light, or is it warm or cold, or even just like what are all of the like molecules that are making up this moment, you know, like is there a sense, and then also I think a good kiss exists in like a context of a story, and so I really like it when you can add a detail to a kiss that is like kind of contextualizing it within their bigger story. Like I think the first kiss in Red, White, and Royal Blue, Alex is thinking about like when they're kissing, he's like thinking about the ground under their feet that's like holding up the house that he lives in, you know. Like it's romance is so much more romantic when it's like a love story, rather than like a series of disconnected moments, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe this is just because my brain is broken and I see everything that ever happens in my life as part of a narrative of a love story, and I romanticize everything. But when I write a kiss, like I really want like for I don't want to spoil that kiss in this book, but we'll talk about Chloe and Chara's. Okay, how about like Chloe and Chara's first kiss, where that's like the kiss that starts everything, where she like corners Chloe in like an elevator, and I wanted it to feel like this like kind of like private claustrophobic sort of moment where they're like in an elevator that they're not even technically allowed to take because it's a faculty elevator. So there's already this element of like there's like some kind of like sneaking and like transgressing happening, and this I sound insane.
No,
and then
it makes
like
perfect sense.
and there's like the fluorescent lights, and it's all like it's just like very tight and close and unexpected, and like everything about the setting is like gonna throw Chloe completely off her game, you know. I thought that was all really important, but then there's also the physical description of the kiss itself, and you do have to like kind of trial and error your way through like what is a nice and lovely way to describe a kiss and what feels like too clinical or too anatomical, you know.
Yeah.
I don't generally love to throw in a lot of mention of tongues in kissing.
Oh
Even
yeah,
if
no.
yeah, even if they are like French kissing, it's like I don't think we need to talk about like I don't find tongues very sexy in
Their tongues don't
writing.
battle for dominance, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
You don't want
personally,
them.
that's just not my taste. Also, that doesn't sound like a good kiss to me. Like I don't think you want to be. That just sounds like it sounds like thumb wrestling, but with tongues.
Yes, tongue wrestling.
But yeah, so all of those things go together to make a good kiss, and I think writing them is just like it's just about honestly, it's about like wanting it to be a moment more than anything. And I think that like good description paired with really like the right emotional like note comes together to make it like a moment that will stand out in the reader's memory.
Love it. Writing
Yeah.
all that down. I'm not writing it down. I'm just gonna remember it inside my head. There is I should just remind everybody that I'm going to be going to audience questions in a couple of minutes. So, you know,
Yes.
have some thoughts really, really quickly, and they better be good ones. No pressure. There's a really strong supporting cast in this book, like in all your books, I think. Who were some of your kind of favorite characters to write outside the like core group?
The core four. I loved writing Ace, who is Smith's best friend, who is just like the quintessential like golden retriever, good-hearted.
I was going to say Labrador, but yes, he's a golden
retriever.
That
yes. Just like I think at one point Chloe describes him as like a cabana boy at Margaritaville, like just good-natured, silly, funny, like unshakable, friendly to everyone. I don't know, like I didn't know a lot of nice jocks growing up, but I had a lot of fun writing one. And so that was really, really lovely and fun. And I also really enjoyed writing Chloe's moms. So Chloe, if you haven't read the book, Chloe has two moms, and they are really wonderful classic like butch femme pairing, where one of her moms is like is like from Alabama and is like a welder now and does just like very like blue collar, just like a gal who's fixing her own truck type of vibe. And then her other mom is from California and she's a professional opera singer. And so she's very like eccentric, dramatic grande dame type of energy, like, but also in a California way. And writing them was really, really fun, and just like having their like weirdness play off of each other. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I the kind of like the fun jock, the like nice jock, it's like it's fun to imagine what that could be like. Like I'm sure there's someone out there
one day
like
I'll
that.
meet him one day.
Exactly.
He's out there somewhere.
You just gotta find him. Do you imagine characters' lives after the ends of books, or are you just done with them? They cease to exist?
I definitely do. I think I think if you pre-order the collector's edition of Red, White, and Royal Blue that comes out in October, I think you will see that I certainly do think about my characters' lives after the end of the book. And that's all I'll say about that. But Yeah, I know, I definitely do. I think with Chloe and Shara, I totally imagine them. I honestly kind of imagine them staying together over the summer, and then Chloe gets to NYU, and I feel like they like break up and get back together a few times. And I feel like they're going to be those people who like break up and get back together a few times throughout college and like do other stuff and figure themselves out, but they're always going to end up back with each other. They're going to be the people who like you meet them when they're 40 and you're like, what's your life story? How'd you get married? And they're like, well, it's so funny. We actually just got married last year, but we've kind of been together since we were in high school. You know, like I feel like I can kind of see that for them. But I think they're going to be really happy. I think they're going to figure their stuff out.
Well, I'm glad you think that, because if you were like, no, it's going to be awful, it's all downhill from here, I'd be like, Casey, you're selling us a love story. This is not it.
And I think they're just going to have a complicated relationship. They both need to go to therapy. So
yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So, right. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I'm going to go to audience questions. And my question is, what do you want people to take away from this book?
I think it depends on where they're coming to the book from. I think there are a lot of like queer teens who are going to pick up this book that I want to come away with a feeling of like hope and you know, a feeling that they're not alone, and that not only are they not alone, but there are like so many like adults on the other side of this experience who are like, that they can look at as examples of like, oh, like I could be growing up in this environment, and then one day I could make a living writing gay books, you know? But also just that, I mean, there's so many things in the book that I just wanted those scenes to internalize and take away, like the idea that you're allowed to exist and you don't have to change yourself. You can just find somewhere that you can exist, you know? And that you don't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be a choice between where you grew up and who you are. You can try to find your own way to reconcile those two. I just want them to feel hope, and I want them to feel encouraged. And everyone who picks up this book, I would love for them to come away with a feeling like they had a great time, because I think it's a really fun book, and I think it's really fun to read, and I really want people to just come away feeling like, oh, that was an absolute blast. I feel like I did the first day of summer vacation when I was, well, do you guys have summer vacation? You guys have summer vacation.
They let us stop going to school for a while.
Well, I didn't know, but some people do like a, what's it called? Like a 3 trimesters? I don't know.
We have terms. We have school terms, but we do get 6 weeks in the summer. So, well, I don't anymore. Grown-ups don't. Rubbish. Well, I did feel like I went on a beautiful summer vacation.
Good. I'm glad.
So, yeah, a summer vacation where I chose to go to school, like Edward Cullen going to high school together. But no, it was fun. All right, I'm gonna look in the questions document, so you guys better not have sent anything really weird. See, someone's asked
hang on. I've just seen a question that I want to answer, which is, Lex tried Taco Bell, but Casey, have you tried Nando's?
Oh yeah, have you tried it?
When I studied abroad, which I did in college, I studied abroad in London and Edinburgh, and I absolutely was obsessed with Nando's when I was there, and it is forever like just tragic to me that I cannot get it in the States, because I absolutely love Nando's. They have some in like the DC area, but I heard they're not that good. So yes, I've tried Nando's and I love Nando's.
Thank God. That's the most important burning question on everyone's lips.
Yeah.
The next one being, if every character in I Kissed Shara Wheeler got a tattoo, what would they get?
Ooh, okay. I feel like Chloe would definitely get like something goth. Like she would get, like, she's like out of her goth phase, but she still has goth tendencies.
Yeah, I never left my goth phase. I was like, Chloe, can't believe you've matured faster than me.
Yeah, I could see her getting like some phases of the moon, or maybe like a dagger. I could totally see her getting like a cool like forearm dagger or something, or like a lyric from
a cool dagger.
Oh my God, that was not even intentional. It looks great. I feel like she would get that exact tattoo, honestly.
Oh, well, there you go. It makes perfect sense.
Shara would get like something very like a cute little floral bouquet or something of like flowers representing like she'll probably get like California poppies for Chloe, and then like the like dogwood blossoms or something. Like it would be like a little bouquet of like flowers that make her think of all the people she loves most. Smith, I feel like would just get some like cool ass like something geometric, or it would either be that, or he would just get like, he would be one of those people to get like his mom's birth date like on his bicep or his collarbone or something. And then Rory would definitely get something. He would probably do something kind of shit posty, like he would get like SpongeBob or something.
Beautiful. Or like handsome Squidward.
Yes, exactly.
Who doesn't want that tattooed on their body forever?
Yeah.
Here is a question about One Last Stop. Whoa, just throwing you a question. Where are Jane and August now? And then also the second part of the question is way more relevant to this conversation, which is, will you be writing more YA? So that's a two-parter.
Okay. So Jane and August right now, so what I imagine is that like after One Last Stop ends, I think that they spend a year of like Jane kind of settling in, but they also go, I think they look up a bunch of Jane's like friends from when she was in the 70s and figure out which of them are like still able to be found, and like which ones are still alive and which ones they can, you know, find an address and go visit. And I think they just like road trip around America, like visiting her old friends and just doing sort of like a queer anthology sort of project or something, where not even necessarily to like publish, just like just Jane wanting to keep all of these memories forever, because I think she will always feel protective of her own memories from like after the events of the book. So I picture them going around and just like Jane just like taking copious notes on everything that they learn from these people. And I think now
Jane's notes about the world were just one of my favorite, like, oh, so good.
Yeah. And I think I think that that's mainly what they do. I think they're both still working at Billy's. I think maybe one day when they're like 60, they'll buy Billy's from the Billy's family, you know, and keep running it forever. So yeah, I think that's what they're up to. I think that you know, Wes has moved out because he's living with Isaiah across the hall, and so they have like a little more space, which is nice. I think that one day probably Nico and Mila might like move to Queens to get a bigger place, and then they'll just keep the apartment to themselves. So that's what I think. And then the answer of more YA, I would love to. I genuinely think that I would have fun writing. I mean, this is not something I've even like pitched or anything, but like every now and then I have this dream of writing a sequel to Shara that would be like I Kiss Chloe Green, and it would be from Shara's point of view, and it would be kind of like it would kind of cover like the first year after Willow Grove, like a freshman. I love like a freshman year of college YA, you know, which I think would be really fun, because I think there's still a lot to peel away the layers of Shara, you know, so I think that would be fun. But in general, I had so much fun writing YA, and I would love to keep to do it again. I will say my next project that I am working on is an adult rom-com, but I would love to come back and do more YA.
When you said my next project, my ears like pricked up like a little dog.
Yeah, it's very, very early. Like I really haven't even begun writing it yet, but I will say you guys will appreciate it, because it's going to take place almost entirely in Europe.
God, we're
I can't say,
well.
Yeah,
say we're in Europe. We are in Europe. We're just not in it doesn't matter.
Well, it's going to take place, I think, in like the UK, France, Spain, and Italy is the plan.
You're gonna have to do so much research traveling. Is it gonna be such a shame?
I know, it would be such a shame if I had to just come spend like a whole summer hanging out in Europe.
Oh my God, that would be a nightmare, you poor thing. So this is a question that I actually also wanted to ask you, which was, do you ever think about writing in genres kind of like thriller or fantasy or stuff like that? Like, do you ever think about genre?
Oh yeah. I mean, before I wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, I was very sure that I was like what I wanted to write was young adult fantasy.
Mm.
And I like had tried I had a bunch of different ideas. I had one idea that was like Buffy meets like Sailor Moon type of vibes about like a coven of witches. I had one that was all about reincarnation. I had one that was like a, you know, a witch school, as you do.
Of course, you have to have the witch school.
Yeah, and none of them panned out. Like I was just not ever great at fantasy world building, but I feel like maybe now if I tried again, I could figure it out more. And every now and then I'm like, I should revisit the ideas I had when I was a teenager, because I feel like who better to know what teenagers like than me at 16.
So
You
true.
know.
And you did dip your toe in like the
Yeah,
SFF world with One Last
with
Stop.
One Last Stop. Yes, it's definitely like I would describe it as like a science fiction romance, you know, loosely. I don't really I always like hesitate to use that term because then I have to like actually do science that makes sense, and that's not
Oh yeah, I can't.
happening
That's not what my
there.
brain does. No. Maths,
But yeah,
science. No.
I think I would love to do fantasy one day.
Well, I would love to read it, so please hurry up.
Okay.
Somebody, in fact, the same person, Sam said, what are some things you've enjoyed recently? Like
Ooh, I
shows,
love this
movies, podcasts,
question.
albums.
Well, I'm currently watching, as like everyone else in the world, I am currently watching Our Flag Means Death, which is
Don't get
delightful.
me started. Don't get me started. Oh my God.
I know. Well, I was like, at first I was like, like my partner showed me the trailer and I was like, that just looks like a lot of dudes doing stuff. I don't know if I'm that interested. And then like more and more stuff was coming out about it. And I was like, oh, it's gay. Oh, it has a non-binary character that's played by a non-binary actor. Okay, I'm here.
Casey, I
And
watched it from the
so,
beginning with no idea what was going to happen. You can just
oh my
imagine the
God,
sort of screaming that took place. Like,
that see, now I wish I had had that experience because that sounds like so
but
fun.
also I understand the experience of being like, I don't want to get queer baited again. I don't want to go into this thing because
Yeah,
like I had a lot of friends say to me like, but is it actually queer? And I was
yeah.
like, I cannot even begin to tell you how queer it is. Like, I promise.
Yes. What else have I been enjoying lately? I have been suddenly everything I've ever enjoyed has left my brain.
Yeah,
But
like when people ask me what a favorite thing is, I'm like, I've never seen a thing before in my life.
yeah,
So
no, okay, I'm
sorry.
going through, actually, you know what? I made a list of my tour MVPs in my notes app. So maybe I can just use, okay, yeah. I've been loving these are not just pieces of media. I've been loving my Mocha Yubi fanny pack. Oh,
Nice.
fanny has a different meaning in the UK. I believe you guys
Yeah,
call it a
I'm
bum bag.
horrified. We do call
Yeah.
it a bum bag. That's not better though, and also it doesn't make any sense. Like
Well,
neither of them make that much sense, so it's fine.
well, it's the thing that you, yeah.
Yeah.
I,
You don't have to tell me.
yeah. I have been loving the little crystallized lime packets that you can get and put in your seltzer on a plane to make it like
I
a
don't know
lime
what
seltzer.
I don't know if we have
It's
that in this country, but it sounds
I
great.
just discovered it recently. It's amazing. I have been loving. I finally got it. I feel like I'm so behind the times. I've been finally reading Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which by Ashley Herring Blake, which I have very much been enjoying. I have been. What else have I been watching? I just starting season 2 of The Wilds, so we'll see if I love it or not. But I really enjoyed the first season. I have been listening I've been listening to my own Shara playlist, to be honest, on tour. It's what I've been mostly listening to, but I've also been enjoying I'm just like looking at my own Spotify now. Oh, Orville Peck put out a new album that I've
Oh my
loved.
God. Yes.
So
That
good,
has
right?
been, yes, core to my life in the past few weeks.
Yes. Also, shout out to the Studio Ghibli lo-fi music and chill beats playlist on Spotify.
Couldn't have done it
Very,
without
very, very important for my travels.
you.
Yeah, so that's kind of the greatest hits right now.
Nice. I was going to ask what's coming up next for you, but I imagine like a big nap. You're just asleep for a week or.
Yes, that's my main plan is to sleep for a week, and then some stuff might be coming up this summer, but I'm not at liberty to say. But I would say maybe watch this space. We might have a pretty big announcement coming in the next few weeks. I don't know.
Still
Who
in the
can
edge of my
say?
seat. Yeah, I'll be here. stay on the edge of my seat for a very long time until it begins to hurt to be on the edge of my seat.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are coming up to the end. Casey, is there anything that you want to say that I have not given you the opportunity to say?
I just want to say thank you to all of the UK readers for not roasting me for getting things about the UK wrong in my books. And also, I hope to see you very soon and hopefully do some in-person events in the UK if that's a thing you guys would be into.
I think, I can speak for the UK. We'd be really into it.
Yeah,
I'm the representative for the UK right now.
Okay, amazing. I would love that. So thank y'all all so much, and I really hope that you love this book.
Oh yeah, where's my copy? Here it is. Everybody, is it out tomorrow in the UK? Is that right?
Yes.
It's out tomorrow. So make sure you pick up a copy. Thank you so much to Waterstones for hosting us, and to Macmillan and to Nina Douglas for organizing this event. And thank you, Casey.
And thank you, Lex.
Thank you. And thank you, me, for being here. And thank you to everybody who asked a question in the Q&A. And that's us signing off.
Thanks so much, guys. Bye.